it's me again. We're back after the screening of our films, and I have the great pleasure of having talk back with filmmaker Krista Davis and her two films, Exercises in Being Close to You and Saltwater River Walk. Krista, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for your really beautiful and meaningful films.
Thank you for having me. It's really a true honor to be part of this festival.
So I wanted to start with the title, Exercises in Being Close to You, a story for the Arctic Refuge. How did you come to that title, or did the title start everything?
The title was actually at the end. For me, I think and it's quite actually apparent with like really two visual components of this film. You know, you have the expedition in the Arctic Refuge, and then you have these video art vignettes that are interspersed through. And that was because I had gone to Alaska, and I had spent 2 weeks there to kind of witness the caribou migration. And then I went back to Arizona, where at the time I was doing a graduate degree. And, you know, once you get to Arizona, the dirt is different, the trees are different. I was in Phoenix. You can't get any different from being in the kind of like backcountry in the tundra, and then in you know, sprawling cement USA. And so when I was in Phoenix, I was really thinking about how to care for the caribou from away, and longing, like there's a lot of longing to be close, to be back up north. I was living up in the Yukon, but going to school in Arizona. So there's like a lot of longing, a lot of like just wanting to be there, wanting to be with the caribou, kind of guardianship without proximity. And so the exercises for being close to you were, for me, was almost a daily practice of ways to care for the caribou from away, or to rethink how I could care for the caribou while I was away. The film actually was part of an exhibition, and one of the pieces in the exhibition was 1,000 little, I don't know what the bone is called, but they were the little bones that I had found in a caribou hoof. And I made 1,000 sets of them, and out of slip cast, and put them across the wall, like a migration across the wall. And so every day for months and months and months, I woke up in the morning and I poured the molds, and I emptied the molds, and I poured the molds, and I emptied the molds. So it was this like process of thinking about the caribou. And so, yeah, it was ways about being close to the caribou without being close to them. So that's how that came about.
How did you think about the lens on the film from the perspective of connection and preservation and relationship to the land and the animal, like the seeing of, and what we're, the perspective that we're seeing as an audience?
I think that came from the exhibition team that I was with, was quite diverse. We had people that lived in the north for quite a long time. We had folks who were from Indigenous nations, and then people who were like photography boys from the big city. And so we were kind of like a ragtag bunch of people who are up there. And I had been living in the north for 5 years at the time, so not very long. But long enough to know that the land is really powerful, that it teaches you if you slow down to look at it and listen to it and be with it. And so it was, for me, a little bit frustrating to be with people who had just gone up there to kind of make a film. And with a good intention, like with truly, truly good intention. So I feel like maybe the lens was a little bit of a pushback against the kind of, I think, way that maybe I compared in the film to the extraction industry of like going to get the shot, which is, you know, frankly, just like, I'm going to get the oil. Like there's a lot of people that want the oil exploration up there for jobs, which is like possibly like a valiant reason, like to feed your family. And I feel like often as documentary filmmakers in particular, and if you want to label it as environmentalist, the tactics can mirror those of the extraction industry, and that so I think that was my lens, was pushing back on that.
And how did sort of the evolution and the movement from exercises then sort of transition to saltwater river walk, or did saltwater river walk start first? Like, how did those two films, because they're almost like a diptych, they go together, they have this sort of you have to see, if you see one, it makes sense to watch both together. How did that happen?
Yeah, interesting. That's for me, that's a like quite a personal kind of question of those two. And I made the exercises for being close to you during my time at Arizona State University. And I had graduated and was asked to come back to do the Salt River Water Walk film. The two professors who had asked me to come, it was through the Museum of Walking and the Institute for Desert Humanities. And they had asked me to come back, I think, because they knew I liked to walk. Like, I think I might have been their only student who walked in Phoenix. Like, I used to walk from my house to my studio. It took an hour and 20 minutes. And I would sometimes not see a person on the street because everybody was in their cars. Like, it was so much of a car culture. And so I think that they asked me because of that, because I like to walk and because I make film. And for me, you know, at the time I was living in Dawson City in the Yukon, where you're just so much living with the land. And I was living in a cabin off grid. And then, you know, living in Phoenix, you can't walk anywhere without there being cement. Like, it was just a struggle for me to connect to the land there and to go between those two spaces of the Yukon and Phoenix. And I felt really sad. I felt really sad for Phoenix for being covered in cement, and for, you know, and for not being able to connect to community there. And so when I was asked to come down to do this project that was about building community, that was about building community for the shared goal to care for the water, I was like, yes, I'm down there now. And I'm so glad that I did it, because, you know, we crossed, it was funny because we crossed this like crazy length together over 5 days. We walked the whole river, and people, you know, thought I was like, they couldn't understand how I didn't have a car. So yeah, to go to Phoenix and to be able to do this this practice, this ceremony, to be invited into the ceremony, and to build community, to connect to the water, like, it gave me all of the things that I was like struggling so hard to find while I was making exercises for being close to you, that I was doing by myself, kind of like in my studio, and then all of a sudden I was doing it with other people and out in the world, and that was really special. So I think that was the transition between the two films.
How do you relate as a filmmaker to, that sort of insular space as a filmmaker, and then that sharing space when you're working with other people? How do you do that?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that insular space is the time, you like, there are certain things that you maybe know as a concept, and then as an artist, I feel like I, walk through the world with these ideas that I might know, and I'm putting them into practice and thinking about things, and often like carrying a camera and looking through the camera, thinking about these things and looking through that lens and framing things in different ways. And there's something in that process of making, that you start to understand things inside in a really different way, and like understand them in your bones in a different way, if that's not too cheesy of a way to put it. And so I feel like that is the art making process, and then the sharing is the let me tell you what just happened for me, I guess.
So with exercises in being close to you, um, what would you hope that audiences would receive, and what would you want us to take away into our own lives? And then the same thing about saltwater river walk. So start with exercises and then go to saltwater river walk.
Yeah, I think with exercises and being close to you, my hope is, I think, two things. Is that, when we watch films, we often have an expectation of the film that we're watching, because we watch so much, because we consume so much media. And I think with nature films in particular, we want to witness, we want to see the grandness of what is out there. And I think I want people to question, like, do I need to see it to care about it? And like, I don't know, I really truly don't know if we need to even be in the refuge at all. Like, leave it to the animals, leave that space, and to the Gwich'in, who have used that territory, of course. But yeah, like, do we need to see it to care? I think it's what I want people
Right.
to ask themselves. And then, in hopes, like, I hope to plant little seeds, I guess, to like shift an ideology of like land use and relationships, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess that was my biggest one for that film. And for Salt River Water Walk, that was a little bit different, because it was a project that was led by Sharon Day, who's an Ojibwe water walker, who is like a rock star with what she has done, I think, for the water and for building community and for building for allowing people to really spend time with the space around them, and to see it in a different way. And so for that film, I hope to share her story, and hope to share the practice of water walking. I know Sharon's big question is, what will you do for the water? What we do for your water? And I guess I hope that film does a little bit of that.
And for you personally, on both films, what was the teaching opportunity for you, and what did you take, and how are you carrying that forward into your life?
Yeah, I think both of those films were learning for me. I don't know if any of that is teaching. I learned a lot when I was in the refuge from Jeffrey Peter, who is a Gwich'in man who came with us. And in particular, I know this comes up in the film, but the way he was explaining language, I feel like we should all be learning Indigenous languages. Like to be able to walk through the world articulating and understanding the world in terms of relationships and the words you use, like to just be reinforcing that in the language. That kind of blew my mind, to really realize the way that I was speaking and the words that I had access to, really framed the kind of like property, ownership, and the distinction between self and other. And so that was like a huge learning experience on that trip. And I guess with Sharon on the water walk, I had become so accustomed to be doing these things on my own that to be able to do it with a community was really special, because I think all of the things I was trying to do in exercises for being close to you, Sharon did just like in the ceremony of water walking. It just happened there,
right.
in practice.
There's a question from a film student at Wingish Film Institute, and she says, it's Helen, and she says, Krista, how long did it take for you to finish your films? And how long did it take for you to get your budget? So all the students at Wingish Film Institute are making short films. And so they're curious to your process.
Okay. I will say that I've worked mostly in the, if this makes sense, the art side of filmmaking. So I haven't really worked with a budget. With exercises for being close to you, I was at school, and it was a huge asset because I had access to travel funding. So with that film, it was really travel funding, my gear, all of that was accessed through small scholarships within the university. So that happened. I went to the refuge in 2018, and I did kind of a little bit of processing of what that was like. And then I worked for a year, but it was an exhibition and a film. So I worked for a full year on the exhibition and the film. And then the Salt River Water Walk, I went down just before the pandemic. It was it was in February. Well, I wore a mask on the plane and didn't eat anything because there was talk of a virus. And it was the kind of the last group thing I had done before the pandemic. And so that was in February of last year, a year and a bit ago. And I did not have a budget. They paid for my flight down and some extra gear and a couple thousand as a stipend, and I just made it.
Well, thank you. And what do you want us to take away, and what's our teaching? What teaching can we take from both of your films into our lives?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I feel like the teaching that is in the film is so based in the Indigenous cultures that I've been kind of, my life has crossed paths with. And that has been a huge honor and relief, because it is the way that I want to live my life. And for me, as a non-Indigenous person, it has been so special to be invited into those spaces and for that knowledge to be shared with me. So I don't know, maybe that's a thank you for sharing the ceremony and the practice and opening up those spaces for people to take part in, and be able to kind of move forward with those teachings. I don't know if that's
No, yeah, I agree with, I love the thank you. I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it. Um, um, and just the ability to share and to experience, because watching a film and experiencing a film and then having it sit with you after, and then whatever we can take, like I'm looking over this massive thing of water, massive lake of water right now, and I'm thinking, when you just said to me, when you said earlier, what can I do, what can I do for the water, what am I doing? I, I have never asked myself that question. So thank you for that. And thank you for your two fabulous films, and for participating in the festival and being here and sharing your work and the journeys with us.
Thank you for having me. It's really, truly an honor to be part of this festival.
Wonderful.